Good evening once again, and welcome to the first inaugural edition of Cape Town Conversation, and welcome to Cape Town. If I could now invite Vincent Maphai, Deputy Chairperson of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, to give us the welcome address. Mr. Maphai, over to you.
Thank you very much, Prudent Director. Your Excellency, President Thabo Mbeki, former President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Mohamed Nasheed, Speaker of the People's Majlis of the Maldives and former President, Mrs. Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, former President of Liberia, Temparangwa Kasarabwe, Assistant Secretary General, Department of Global Security and Safety at the United Nations, Mr. Sanjoy Joshi, Chairman of the Observer Research Foundation, Samir Saran, President, the Observer Research Foundation and Chair, T20 India Secretariat, Sujay Chinoy, Director General, Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis, Mr. Max Botswana, CEO of Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Mr. Syed Abbas Ahmad, Ambassador and Special Envoy of the President of the African Union. Good evening. The Foundation has been very kind to me. My job today is extremely brief and straightforward. It is with profound honor and gratitude and a deep sense of responsibility that I stand before you today on behalf of the Thabo Mbeki Foundation to welcome you to this momentous occasion, the Cape Town Conversations. As we gather here, we are reminded of the vibrant spirit and indomitable resilience of the African continent. The Thabo Mbeki Foundation has since inception been a beacon of hope and vessel of change, tirelessly working towards realizing the noble dream of an African Renaissance. The vision, clearly articulated by our patron, President Mbeki, is not merely aspiration, but definitely a call to action. It is about forging a new Africa, an Africa that is free from poverty and oppression, an Africa that reclaims its dignity and writes its own narrative on the global stage. Our mission as a foundation is unambiguous: to ignite and sustain a continental movement that champions political, social, and economic renewal. We are committed to setting the agenda for the transformative change across the continent, fostering dialogue and nurturing a new cadre of thought leaders dedicated to the African Renaissance. At the heart of our ethos is the belief that solutions to Africa's challenges must be crafted by Africans themselves. We are guided by the North Star of our existence, the relentless pursuit of our ideals for African Renaissance. It is our duty to galvanize all Africans and partners from the global south and across the world to join this crusade to eradicate poverty, underdevelopment, and conflicts, and to free our continent from the shackles of disease and to assert our sovereignty, free from external domination. Today we are honored to have amongst us a true champion of these ideals, a man whose dedication to Africa's Renaissance is evidenced not just in words, but in every action of his. I'm referring to President Thabo Mbeki here. The Thabo Mbeki Foundation's endeavors to amplify his work and legacy, with the ultimate goal of ushering in a continent that is confident, prosperous, and at peace with itself and the world. As a foundation, we believe South Africa has a pivotal role to play in this renaissance. The stability and progress of South Africa are integral to the continent's overall success. Our foundation is therefore unwavering to ensure that South Africa regains and maintains political and economic stability. This year's Cape Town Conversation is hosted in collaboration with the Observer Research Foundation, Think 20 India, and our own Thabo Mbeki Foundation, comes at a crucial juncture. With South Africa holding the BRICS presidency and the introduction of the African Union as a permanent member of the G20, we are at a defining moment in international cooperation. This convergence presents an unparalleled opportunity for Africa to shape global narratives and policies. As we gather here today, we have no illusions about the world that is in turmoil, our continent that still struggles with elusive peace and underdevelopment, and our own country that in many ways seem to be going in the wrong direction. Nevertheless, gloom and doom will not deter us in the course of seeking lasting solutions to these many intractable problems. And this gathering is one such moment. The Cape Town Conversations are more than just a series of discussions. They are a beacon of hope and testament to our collective resolve to shape a world order that is inclusive, equitable, and reflective of our shared aspirations. This platform brings together diverse voices, established and emerging leaders to tackle contemporary global governance issues, ideate solutions, and shape the future. As we embark on this journey of dialogue and discovery, let us take a moment to express our deepest appreciation to our partners, the Government of South Africa, the ABSA Group, the Children's Investment Foundation, Global Health Strategies, Asia Groups, the Andre Belonko Foundation, and the United Nations in South Africa. Your support is invaluable in making this event a success. As we engage in the Cape Town Conversation, let us be inspired by the spirit of Ubuntu. Together, let us chart a course for a future where Global South's voice is not just heard, but is influential in shaping the global discourse. Welcome again to the first edition of the Cape Town Conversation, and we hope that we will also be able to develop long-lasting friendship. Welcome to a dialogue that promises to be enriching, enlightening, and transformative. Thank you.
May I now invite Dr. Samir Saran, President of the Observer Research Foundation, to deliver the theme address. Sir.
Good evening and a warm welcome. So before we begin and before I try to speak to you on why we are doing this, let me acknowledge a few people who have joined us and who have made this possible. Let me first acknowledge the top table, President Thabo Mbeki, whose visit to India last year, a few months ago, is the reason why we are here. and he is determined to shape a better future with partners in the spirit of Ubuntu. In India, we have the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which basically means that the similar ethic across two different continents and two different peoples should work together to shape a common future. So let me acknowledge President for his farsightedness and for making this happen. Thank you very much, President Mbeki. Let me also acknowledge President Nasheed from the Maldives. He's someone, if you translate his title in his local language into English, he is President Nasheed. The speaker is also literally called the president when it's translated. So he's the only double president we have in the room. And President Nasheed has been someone who has fought the odds, who's a champion for climate action, who's rallied leaders around the world to look at sustainable development from a holistic perspective. So thank you very much for joining us, President Nasheed. And last but not the least, and perhaps the most importantly, we have President Sirleaf Johnson, the former president of Liberia, who will be giving to us her vision from this very important region and how we can shape some future that includes everyone. And between the three presidents that we have gathered on the top table, let me assure you that we have commitment to a better future that is unmatched. So please join me in welcoming all three of them to this dialogue. Let me also acknowledge a few other folks in the room, of course, my dear friends who've made this all possible, the Deputy Chairperson who just spoke to us, Deputy Chairperson Maphai, friends Max and Lucanio from the foundation who've been working very hard to bring all of us here. Let me thank Dr. Rajiv Gowda, who's joined us from Bangalore. He's, I think, probably one of his first assignments in his new role, and we look forward to hearing from you. Let me acknowledge the chair of India's core group for the T20, Ambassador Susan Chinoy, and he'll be both speaking to us as well as being part of a ceremony we have tomorrow to hand over to the chairs, three of them from Brazil who are going to be here. Luciano, thank you so much for coming here, Luciano. And of course, the three foundations are going to speak to us, and Ambassador, I see you as well. So welcome. And we are going to have a bit of a handover tomorrow from India's T20 to the Brazilian T20. We want to use this occasion to actually do that. So thank you very much. The reason we are doing this, of course, the first is Ubuntu meets Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family, and there are no norths, there are no souths. There is only one planet, there's only one family, there's only one future, and we have to walk together. And that is the first purpose. The first purpose is to build from the emerging world, from the most dynamic continent, a global platform that will discuss matters that matter to the world. We don't have to go to Berlin, Paris, London, New York. We have to come to Cape Town. We have to look at the lived experiences of the people here. We have to look at both the old and the new dynamism that infects and implicates the future trajectories of humankind out of this continent, and we must have those conversations here. I think that's the first purpose. It is time to relocate the capital of conversations from the erstwhile cities to the cities that are going to shape the future. And that is the first purpose why we are here. We are here, 175 of us from 60 plus countries, because many of us believe that it is important to include these societies that are going to have a huge impact on our future. That's the first purpose we are here. The second purpose we are here is because we are here to celebrate two remarkable events that defied the mood of multilateralism, which was dark and gray. In a world that cannot agree on anything, there were two events that shaped 2023. 2023 will be remembered by these two developments. The first, and I want you all to join me in celebrating and applauding South Africa's presidency of the BRICS. I think it was a fantastic presidency. Well done, South Africa. Let me acknowledge Ambassador Anil Sukla, who was instrumental, and Sara Moetsa, who was leading the academic forum for the BRICS. And I say this because I think ever since the foundation for the foundation of the New Development Bank, this has been perhaps the single most successful BRICS event, a leader summit, where we have actually recast the very foundation of of what BRICS is destined to do in the future. So this is a new journey that begins out of South Africa with a new BRICS. I called it the refueled BRICS, and it's time to do more. And congratulations to South Africa. Also, I think it would be fair to acknowledge that the second most seminal event in a world that can't agree to anything was India's G20 presidency. So a fantastic outcome, very ambitious. It was not a minimalist summit. It was a summit that wanted it all and made everyone agree to a very ambitious action plan, be it on climate, be it on gender, be it on technology, be it on reforms of multilateral institutions. And led by the Prime Minister himself, I think the Indian G20 presidency defied the polarized world and the dodgy multilateralism that infects progress today. So congratulations to the Indian G20 presidency. And we want to take these two spirits and the architects of these two moments and use their energies and use their zeal to carve a world together and create the Cape Town conversation. So Cape Town conversation is also in many ways the arena where these two distinct exercises and moments have come together to try and put together a arena where you disagree, where you dissent, where you have diverse opinions, but you have one thing that is common, that is the future, and you work collectively towards that. So this is a big tent where we welcome all opinions, all views, because we truly believe that it's the one planet that we serve collectively and together. So that was the second reason why we are doing the Cape Town conversation, to use this moment and create something for the future. The third and most important, my final point, is that this year, both under the BRICS presidency as well as in the G20 presidency, leadership of South Africa and the leadership in India made it very clear. It's important to be inclusive. It's important to reach out to the global South. It's important to discuss matters that are important for people, the next 7 billion people who have not yet been served by globalization that emerged from the Atlantic system. Both countries realized that we need to have a community of thinkers, of ideas, of propositions that emerge from these societies that seek a better future. And we thought that doing it in November, 1 week before the new G20 presidency begins, would allow us to discuss what is it that we seek in the coming year. So one of the ideas that we want to take forward is that after this event gets over, we will work together with the Mbeki Foundation and put together a call for action for the new presidency of the G20 and submit some of the outcomes that we have gleaned from these discussions and hand it over to the new presidency to take forward. So the idea here is to time it in a manner that we can actually shape the discussions that will emerge in the next year ahead of us. And therefore, I'm grateful that we have the Brazilian presidency in force here. And let me also acknowledge the Deputy Consul General from Brazil who's in the room with us, and of course the Indian Consul General who's representing the Indian state here. So thank you to both the gentlemen for being with us. And we are determined that G20 in the Global South must be a permanent conversation. It should not end with a presidency. It should be institutionalized. And this Cape Town conversation is the place where the Global South will speak to the G20, will advise the G20, and sometimes even lead the G20 in finding the solutions. The idea is to create a tent that includes all, leaves no one behind. Cape Town conversation is the place where we will all unite. Now, as we leave, make new friends, have fun, enjoy the food, enjoy the hospitality. This is our first attempt. If some of you have had some troubles, my apologies. We'll get it better next time. But please be assured that this is a journey that is going to continue. It is a journey that is going to grow. It is a journey where we are going to invite more people to participate. This is the beginning, and I'm so grateful that you are there with us at the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saran. And now may I invite for the opening address of Cape Town Conversation, Thabo Mbeki, former President of South Africa. Sir, the podium is yours.
Thanks a lot, Program Director. The word address is a very big word. So what you've just said, I'm not quite sure about it. The one you said is an opening address. That it gives a lot of responsibility to deliver an address. No, it's not an address. It's merely to say welcome. Is that an address? I doubt it. But Program Director, thanks a lot, and distinguished delegates and guests, I'm comfortably seated between two of my colleagues there, who are a kind of a protective shield, protected from my left by the Maldives and from my right by Liberia. Welcome. And welcome to everybody to this important gathering. It gives me great pleasure and singular honor to join Mr. Saran, and from our partners, the Observer Research Foundation, and Dr. Maphai from our foundation, to welcome you at this Cape Town conversation, a unique platform for dialogue and cooperation among the countries of the Global South. And indeed, I'm glad that so many of you accepted our invitation to be with us this weekend. And further, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to our co-hosts of this event, that is the Observer Research Foundation, Think 20 India, for their vision and leadership in initiating and helping to organize this timely and important event. The conversation is a testament to the strong and enduring partnership, I must say this, between ourselves and India, which dates many years back and has been enriched by centuries of cultural, economic, and political interactions. And so together we share a common vision of a peaceful, prosperous, and inclusive world where the voices and aspirations of the Global South are heard and respected. And we are gathered here today at a critical moment in the history of the world, during which, among other things, we are witnessing a renewed drive for a multipolar world order and genuine multilateral cooperation based on the UN Charter. As we all know, there are others who are used to a unipolar order and their exercise of uncontested hegemony. It's therefore self-evident that there will be a contest between the two tendencies, the striving for the multipolar world order on one hand and the impulse to maintain a unipolar order. Necessarily, this means there will be instability in the world and a prevalent sense of uncertainty about the future concerning all areas of human activity. Ever since the independence of India in 1945 and the birth of the People's Republic of China in 1949, and the emergence of other independent states as colonialism continued to collapse, the feeling has existed among the newly liberated countries that they should get together to agree on what they should do to pursue their common interests. And this is what led, of course, to the convening of the African and Asian Bandung Conference in Indonesia in 1955, which agreed on a common program of action. And all this eventually led to the emergence of the non-aligned movement, which defined the relationship of the Global South to the superpowers of the day. And even as the non-aligned movement was continuing to do its work, the countries of the South as a whole, including Latin America, considered it important that the matter of world trade must be discussed through the United Nations. This led to the establishment of the UN Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, which first met in Geneva in 1964. The Group of 77 emerged at the end of this first UNCTAD, the 77 being the developing countries represented at that conference. And they called for a new order in terms of international trade. And the foundation of the G77 plus China was therefore yet another example of the Global South coming together jointly to represent its interests concerning the area of international trade and development. And here I must mention that, again, as we all know, the G77 plus China continued to pursue what they had described in their founding declaration as a new framework of international trade that is wholly consistent with the needs of accelerated development. As a result, in May 1974, the UN General Assembly adopted the famous Declaration on the Establishment of a New International Economic Order. To indicate the extent of the victory scored by the Global South in this regard, let me read part of the very first paragraph of that General Assembly declaration. It said, "We, the members of the United Nations, solemnly proclaim our united determination to work urgently for the establishment of a new international order to make it possible to eliminate the widening gap between the developed and the developing countries and ensure steady accelerating economic and social development and peace and justice for present and future generations," unquote. In time, thanks to the absence of the multipolarity to which I referred, this commitment came to naught and the new international economic order vanished. However, so important was this achievement at the General Assembly of the UN that as recently as January this year, representatives from 25 countries met in Havana, Cuba, and among others issued a call to renovate the vision, quote, to renovate the vision for a new international economic order fit for the 21st century, and enshrine this vision in a new United Nations declaration on the occasion of its 50th anniversary next year, 2024. I don't know if the Cape Town conversation will discuss that as a major task of the Global South. However, sometime after the adoption of the new international economic order, that declaration, the new global challenge that was posed was how to respond to the process of globalization. And indeed, from the point of view of the Global South, two of the appropriate responses were the adoption of the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, in 2000, and the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, in 2015. With the unanimous commitment of importance to the developing world that, quote, nobody will be left behind, unquote. But only 2 months ago, in September, the UN General Assembly assessed the progress made towards achieving those SDGs halfway through the set period up to 2030. And the dismal report is that only 15%, of the targets have been achieved. And it will require annual expenditure of between 3 and 4 trillion US dollars between now and 2030 to realize the SDGs. You can imagine that in the first half of that 15-year period, we've only achieved 15% of the targets. And now the other half, we must achieve the other 85% and annually spend these huge sums of money, 2, 3 and 4 trillion a year. I think that again gives a challenge to the Global South. What must we do? I believe that once again, the Global South will have to get together to answer the question, what should be done to achieve Agenda 2030, that's the SDGs. Everything I've said is but an introduction to this conclusion, that the Cape Town conversation has brought us together this weekend in order to make a contribution to the very necessary and continuing effort of the Global South to advance its interests globally. The Cape Town Conversation Initiative must therefore serve as a platform to engage in relevant opportunities and challenges and to foster a dialogue among the Global South on how to navigate the changing world order and how to advance our common developmental interests. The conversation must provide a space for reflection, for learning, for action, and where we can share our experiences, perspectives, and best practices, and where we can identify our common challenges and opportunities, where we can explore our potential areas of cooperation and collaboration, and where we can articulate our vision and strategy for the future of the Global South and the world. And so once more, welcome to all of the distinguished participants and best wishes for success in our important discussions and engagements. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sir, if I could just request you to join us over here. We have a small token of appreciation from the Observer Research Foundation for you. If I may invite Dr. Saran and the President to join us on the stage for a quick photograph and a small token of ORF's appreciation for you, sir.